Who's better? His story or her story? Today we're gonna watch both channels and figure out which one is better, starting with his story.
I never expected to see a video of my big sister doing something so shocking. Even more so, I never expected to see it on the big screen at a movie theater. I sprung into action immediately because on some level, I knew this was all my fault. The popcorn I was eating exploded out of my lap as I bolted out of my seat and into the theater aisle. Behind me, playing on the nearly 50-foot screen, was a video of one of my sister's most private moments. She was in her room dancing in her pajamas and singing both loudly and badly into a hairbrush. I could feel the entire audience cringe before small pockets of laughter started erupting in the crowd. On my way out, I passed my sister, who was so frozen by shock that she couldn't even begin to cry yet. I exited the theater and kicked open the door just behind it. It was the door to the projection room. Inside stood my sister's ex-boyfriend, an employee at the theater who was also a notorious narcissist with a vengeful streak to him. He stood at the projector just laughing. "Turn it off now!" I yelled at him. He gave me a sick stare and simply said, "You want me to turn it off? That's a strange request considering you're the one who sent me the video." I just stared at the ground because I knew that what he said was true. A few days ago, my sister and I got into a huge argument over who could use the car this weekend. Things got heated, so she stormed off to her room to blow off some steam in her usual way. By blasting theme songs from our childhood and singing them as loudly as possible. My sister was many things, but a good singer was not one of them. In a moment of anger, I acted recklessly and secretly recorded her performance. Then I sent it to her ex-boyfriend with a message reading, "This is the girl who broke your heart, bro. How sad for you." Now my foolish actions had caught up with me.
Why?
I stared into her ex-boyfriend's eyes and said, "Just because I sent you a video doesn't give you any right to do this with it. Take it down, now." Without blinking, he just whispered back, "No chance." I replied, "If that's how it's gotta be." I lunged forward and kicked him in the chest. The wind was instantly knocked from his body, and he lay on the floor trying desperately to recover. I immediately cut the feed from the projector and made an announcement over the theater speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, the footage you just watched was an AI generation and completely fake. The scheduled feature film will resume shortly." I leaned over the ex-boyfriend while he lay on the ground, still struggling to breathe, and said, "Exhibiting private videos to the public without the subject's permission is a pretty serious crime, man. I hope the judge takes it easy on ya." I called the police and gave them a rundown before exiting the projection room. My sister stood outside of the doorway with tears in her eyes. She just looked at me and said, "I don't know what happened here, but it looks like you handled it. Thanks." She leaned in and gave me a hug. After I explained everything, she was upset, but our relationship became all the stronger for it.
Wow, such a nice story. I had mixed feelings for the entire thing. First of all, I didn't understand why she was on the big screen. Like, she didn't know she was in a movie, but apparently it was the ex-boyfriend. I could have sworn it's an ex-boyfriend playing the clip. But also, it's definitely the brother's fault for sending that video to the ex. Like, why would you do that? Well, the siblings ended up on good terms. That guy's going to jail. I don't think you can go to jail for that, but who knows? It's definitely illegal. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you gotta go to jail. I'll give this story a 6 out of 10. I liked it. I'll give it a 7. Well, now let's go over to the Her Story YouTube channel and watch a short, and let's see if we rate it higher.
I was waiting for my dad to pick me up from school when a woman walked up to me. "Hey, sweetie, I'm your mom." I immediately felt nervous. My dad always told me she was dangerous and was in jail for doing horrible things, but she looked so nice. She told me my dad asked her to pick me up, and when my teacher overheard, she said, "Oh, that's so sweet." If my teacher believed her, then she must have been telling the truth, right? But before I could decide, she pulled me into her car. She took me out to eat and bought me expensive toys and clothes and seemed really nice, but she told me my dad lied about her being a criminal. She said he kidnapped me from her when I was young, and she'd been looking for me ever since. I was so mad at dad for lying, but as we drove down the road, I realized I didn't know where we were. "Mom, I think we're lost," but she just shrugged. "This is a detour." We turned down a dirt road, but I started getting really nervous. "Mom, I don't like this. Where are we?" She didn't say anything. She told me to get out and brought me up to a house. The second she knocked on the door, 2 men immediately grabbed me. "Mom, no!" But they pulled me in, handed my mom some cash, and left. I kicked at them, but they were stronger, and I was brought into a small room with no windows. There were other kids there, and they all looked scared too. I tried to act friendly, but none of them spoke the same language as me. My dad was right. My mom was evil. They took us all upstairs the next day and made us get into a truck. My hands were tied, so I couldn't do anything. I thought I'd never see my dad again. He was right about my mom. I never should have listened. They made us get onto a boat, and I overheard one of them say we were leaving Japan. I knew I couldn't go. I just wanted to tell my dad Dad I was sorry. Then, one of the other boys touched my arm. He showed me what he was holding. He had a small knife. He motioned for me to turn around, and as I did, I felt him start cutting the rope. He had to hurry. The men could walk in any second. I felt it snap, and my hands were free, but one of them yelled, "Hey!" They saw him and instantly grabbed him. Another one ran in, and when he saw my hands untied, he ran towards me. I kicked him in the balls as hard as I could and ran outside. He was chasing me. Grab her! And with no other choice, I jumped. The ocean was freezing, and I couldn't see. I started swimming, but eventually I realized I was going to die. I was freezing to death, and I started to see the light. This was the end for me. But when I opened my eyes, it was real. The light was coming from the shore. I thought about my dad, how upset he'd be if he never saw me again, and used all my energy to swim towards it. The people on the land saw me and pulled me out of the water. I should have listened. Now I'm traumatized forever.
I don't know if this is a real story or not. In comparing this story to the His Story YouTube channel, this was definitely more intense, but it was all over the place. They just kept throwing everything in this story. It didn't have a good ending. What do you mean she just escaped? She didn't die or anything. It's a good ending. How else would you want it to end? I don't know. What do you mean it didn't have a good ending? Where's the dad? Chilling. At home. But there's no way this teacher just let a stranger just pick up a kid. You've never seen that woman before. Why was the narrator calling that person mom? What do you mean? The narrator was calling the person mom. Yeah, but that wasn't the mom. But why was he calling it mom? Because that's what she was supposed to be. That was her in to kidnap the little girl. That was obviously not her mom. That was definitely someone pretending to be her mom just to kidnap her. But do you think she thinks that's the mom? Maybe, but who cares? You just got kidnapped. Never take sweets from strangers. Yeah, and don't go with strangers anywhere. It was slightly better, so I'll give this one a 7. I'll give it a 7 too. Now let's go back to His Story YouTube channel.
A moth landed on my crush's lunch tray, and she shrieked and jumped back into me, and I caught her elbow for 1 perfect second until Trevor swooped in between us and gently held her hands. "Relax, I got you." He flicked the moth away, and she smiled at him. "Wow, you're my hero." I crossed my arms and let him have this one. But soon, I was going to get rid of every moth in this school, so she'd never scream again, and she was going to see exactly who the real hero was. After the last bell rang, I ran to the science lab with my backpack wide open, and I shoved in 2 car headlights, the UV bulb from the reptile tank, and a battery pack. I peeked my head out of the doorway to make sure no one was there, and I ran to a corner of the courtyard where there weren't any security cameras, and I smiled because I knew this was all going to be worth it to see Chloe smile. I dragged a lunch table into the corner, clipped the battery pack to the headlights with alligator clips from the physics drawer, and taped both lights down, angled at the sky. By the time I finished, it was already dark outside, and the school was locked up, so I flipped the switch, and the light was so bright that the courtyard went white. The first moth arrived in under a minute, bumping the headlight in dumb circles, and I scooped it into my jar, grinning. Then came 5 more, then 20, until the air around the light was a storm of wings. They landed in my hair and crawled up my sleeves while I filled the jar, and the whole time I was grinning ear to ear because I knew Chloe was sure to call me her hero soon. I walked in the next morning with the jar filled with moths over my shoulder like Santa, but Chloe was at her locker stroking a moth on her open palm, Trevor leaning beside her. Trevor took me to the butterfly house last night, and it really helped me with my fear of moths. Did you know moths are just night butterflies? This one's name is Pete. He's kinda cute, right? Trevor nodded at the jar. What's in the container, man? I'd spent 9 hours catching everything she was scared of, and he'd spent 1 date making her love it. I carried it out to the courtyard and opened it. As 300 moths poured into the sky, I realized I was never a hero. I was just down bad.
Oh my gosh. That was a funny ending. Made no sense. Brother, she's not gonna call you a hero because you trapped 300 moths into a jar. And that's also not your responsibility. And she's not gonna smile now that she knows there are no moths around. She's just not gonna notice anything. Well, he was gonna show her that, hey, I got all the moths for you. I'm your hero. That's a moth riz right there. Okay, this story was kind of bad. Pretty bad. I'll give it a 5. I'll give it a 4. Now we're going back to Her Story YouTube channel.
I was preparing for the dog competition when my rival kicked my dog and laughed. "That mutt is too ugly and talentless to be here. Leave now and save yourself." Tater Tot whimpered and the crowd snickered, but I knelt down and scratched him behind the ears. He was the last dog left at the shelter, the one no one believed in but me. The rival smirked beside her showbred champion. "This is going to be our 5th year in a row winning. You don't stand a chance." Then the buzzer blared, the gates dropped, and the dogs lined up. As Tater Tot took his position, my rival whispered, "I'll make sure your mutt is last place." I didn't know what she meant by that, but Tater Tot flew through the course, tongue out, happier than I'd seen him since the shelter. He cleared the tunnel and the weave poles, and we were in the lead. But then I heard 2 sharp snaps, and the rival's champion slammed into Tater Tot's side, knocking him off the ramp as he cried out. I whipped toward the sound and saw my rival's fingers raised, snapping again, and her dog rammed another competitor to the ground. I realized the snaps were her signaling her dog to ram the others, and she was cheating. Then she clapped twice, and her dog stopped dead in the track, sending 3 dogs crashing into a pileup behind it. But Tater Tot scrambled up and pushed through the chaos, sprinting past her champion and into the lead. We were about to win. Then the rival saw us pulling ahead, snapped twice, and her dog rammed Tater Tot right at the finish line, throwing us back just enough to cross at the exact same moment. The judges stood up. It's a tie. We need to review further. As the judges leaned in to decide who won, the rival slid up beside them, whispering in their ears, and I knew it was now or never. She's cheating, I shouted, pointing at my rival. She's been sabotaging the other dogs by snapping. The judges frowned, and one shook his head. That's a serious accusation. Dogs don't just attack on command. The rival smirked, certain she'd already won. Get her out of here. She and her dog don't belong. But I stepped forward and raised my hand. Just watch. I snapped twice, and her champion instantly lunged sideways, ramming into the dogs nearby. The whole crowd gasped. The rival's face went white as the judges turned to her, then to me. The champion is disqualified. The win goes to Tater Tot. I knelt down and hugged my dog as the crowd roared, trophy in hand. Then I looked at my rival on the floor, sobbing, looks like your dog was last place.
Tater Tot, good job, buddy. You're the best. I love you. See, well, that was a good story. We ended the story clapping, which means it was good. We had the bad character, the good character, the underdog. That was actually a dog. The evil character got exposed. This was very good. I'll give it a 9. I'll give it an 8. Why? Because it was great, but it wasn't my favorite. So far, Her Story's YouTube channel is doing so much better than his story. Buddy, you're gonna have to catch up. Let's check out the next story. Can you redeem yourself?
I placed the last box of brown hair dye into my shopping cart and continued walking, but when I turned around, I saw a woman in her mid-40s reaching into my cart and trying to take the hair dye. I moved her hand and told her, "This box is for my daughter with cancer. She wants to dye her hair her favorite color one last time before chemo." But the woman scoffed. "I have a party next month and all my friends have brown hair, so I need it more," and kept trying to take it. I called over the manager, and after the woman proudly declared her party was more important than my daughter's cancer, he kicked her out and told her she was banned. I came home with the dye and dyed my daughter's hair, but then a month later, I got a letter in the mail. The woman was suing me over the hair dye. I showed up to court with my daughter, and the woman was already sitting there, frowning like she was the victim. She stood up and told the judge I had done irreparable emotional damage to her, and pulled out photos of her from the party, showing her with blonde hair while all her friends had brown hair. She cried, "My friends laughed at me all night, Your Honor. They don't understand how hard it's been for me." The judge looked over at my daughter with her already thinning brown hair and immediately ruled in our favor. Then he looked at the woman and also ordered her to cut her hair short, because right now it's getting in her eyes and stopping her from seeing the actually important things in life. Her jaw dropped and the clippers came out.
Wow, that was such a good story. I love this one. By the way, why do you gotta be such an unsufferable human being? Like, when you hear this story, like, you just gotta be empathetic with the people. Nobody cares about your stupid, crappy party. Also, nothing gives you the right to take a product from someone else's shopping cart. It was already in the shopping cart. Don't touch it. Yeah, get out of here. Kick rocks. This story was so good. I'll give it a 9. I'll give it an 8.5. Let's see if her story can be better.
I was scrolling through the twin day photos on my phone, waiting for my best friend Jade to get back from the bathroom, when the fire alarm pierced my ears. A teacher started waving us all towards the door. "Leave everything. Exit the building." I got swept into the crowd pouring outside before I could even look for Jade, but I told myself she'd find me outside. On the football field, a teacher ran between groups with her clipboard, recounting the same rows twice. The teacher's voice cut through the noise. "I counted 23. I'm missing 1. My stomach dropped as I realized Jade wasn't outside. The teacher was looking around frantically. "Has anyone seen Jade?" Nobody answered. The 2 firefighters came out of the school smiling. It was a false alarm. The teacher grabbed one by the arm and his face changed as she whispered to him. They all went back inside for so long that my hands went numb from gripping my own sleeves. "Yo, what if she's like dead or something?" Someone whispered behind me. 20 minutes in, the firefighters came back out shaking their heads. Jade wasn't in the building. The police arrived next and 2 officers jogged up. "Does anyone know what she was wearing?" My throat locked up for a second before the words came out. "Pink hoodie, ripped jeans, and white Converse. It's twin day, so she's dressed exactly like me." The officers nodded kid and ran inside, radioing the description ahead of them. I was still standing at the edge of the field 20 minutes later when I saw Jade walking up the sidewalk from the parking lot, followed by her mom and an officer. I ran to her and pulled her into a hug, but she flinched away. I'm sorry. She wouldn't look at me, and her mascara had run in dark tracks down her face. I got my period really bad, and it got on my jeans, and I just panicked. Her voice cracked on the word panicked. I pulled the alarm so I could get out without anyone seeing. The officer beside her crossed his arms. That's the whole story? Jade nodded, staring at her shoes. I didn't think anyone would notice I was gone. I hugged her again. Of course I noticed. You're my best friend. I thought you died. Jade laughed a little. I felt like I was about to.
It's never that serious. Get her out. It's never that serious. Bro, you don't gotta pull the fire alarm just for this. Like, come on, what are we doing here? This story was kind of a roller coaster. I was invested, but then they lost me at the ending. So I'll give it a 6. The ending was not satisfying at all. Guys, I think I figured out what are Vlad's requirements for stories. If the ending is not good, he's not gonna give it a higher grade than like 7. Well, endings are very important. It was definitely worse than his story, so I'll give it a 7. Actually, 6. Let's see if his story can come up with another banger.
A man walked in with his son while I was working the counter at the movie theater, and the kid instantly started pointing at everything behind the glass. Daddy, it's my birthday. I want the big popcorn, the chicken nuggets combo, and 2 drinks so we don't have to share. The dad smiled and ordered everything, but when I said $37, his smile instantly faded. He opened his wallet and I saw him count. He only had 20. He quietly muttered, "I'm a failure," under his breath, then started putting things back. The large popcorn became a small. The 2 drinks became 1. The kid's combo was gone completely. His son watched each item get taken off, and his little face fell, but he didn't say a word because he clearly understood. The dad paid the 20, and I watched them walk in with their 1 small popcorn and 1 drink. I looked down at the kid's combo on my counter, then pulled $17 out of my wallet and put it in the register. I grabbed the kid's combo, the large popcorn, and the 2nd drink, and walked into the theater. I found them right as the movie was starting, and the dad was pouring popcorn into his son's hands, so the kid would get more. I set everything on their armrest. This one's on the house, for the birthday boy. The dad looked up at me, and his eyes filled with tears. He didn't say a word, but I knew that's because if he spoke, he'd start crying immediately. His son screamed, "Daddy, look, chicken nuggets!" I smiled and walked back, but when I walked out, my manager stopped me. "Why did you do that?" I replied, "Because it was only $17 and made the kid's birthday special." He counted the money in the register. "Fine, but that's $17 that could have gone in your wallet." He probably pretended to be broke just so you'd do that. I just shrugged, but after the movie, the dad quickly slid me a folded napkin while walking out. I opened it, and it said, "I lost my job last month. My son's mom left. This is the first time I've taken him anywhere since. Thank you for making it feel like things might be okay. Michael." I put the napkin in my wallet where the $17 was and smiled, because sometimes even a little help can go further than you could ever imagine.
Wow! That was a good story. That was absolutely cinema. Get it? Cinema. Movie. Oh my gosh, this story was actually perfect. That was touching. Perfect. I'll give it a 10. Me too. That was a good story. It was such a touching story. I almost teared up, but you know what? I'm a grown man and I'm not gonna tear up on YouTube Shorts. I said it. It's just embarrassing. Honestly, it was gonna make me tear up too, but like, I'm not there yet. I need some more warm-up for that. Well, this is gonna be a tough competition for her story, so let's check it out.
I ducked into the cafeteria of my new school, and a kid laughed and pointed, "Yo, check it out, an NBA player is here." I sighed and tried to ignore him while he made fun of me because it's not like I chose to be 6'5", but the entire cafeteria started laughing at me and banging on the tables. "LeBron, LeBron." I froze and hunched over, trying to make myself look as small as possible. All I wanted was to get through one day without being the thing people pointed at. When school ended, I was walking towards the sports hall when 3 kids wobbled towards me while walking on stilts. "Look," one of them said, grinning. "We look just like you." I blinked back the tears in my eyes and pretended not to care, and I walked in to try out for the girls' basketball team, the only place where being a 6'5" girl was actually useful. I started speaking to the coach, thinking that this would be my moment, but he took out a measuring tape and started measuring my height. "Honestly, you'd be better off on the boys' team." He pointed to the other side of the court, and I slowly walked over and gulped, not knowing what their reaction would be. Their tallest kid shoulder-checked me going past. "You sure you're in the right league, LeBrona?" They all keeled over laughing, and I went red and wanted to give up on myself. Their coach clapped me on the shoulder. "The game is next Friday. Usually I'd make a newbie do the training drills, but since you're the tallest one here, you'll be all right." I nodded like I knew what I was doing, but I'd never played a game against men before in my life. A week later, I jogged out to the court while the entire school watched. When I turned to the audience, I saw every single student had LeBron masks on. They all chanted and laughed, "LeBrona, LeBrona." I blocked out the sound and put on my game face. When the game started, I bricked my first 3 shots. I kept catching myself hunching, folding down, taking taking up less room on the court, until I caught my reflection in the gym doors, all curled up and small. I was so tired of doing that. So I stopped, and for the first time ever, I stood up to my full height. Next possession, their big kid drove at me, and I swatted his shot out of the air. I grabbed the loose ball, took 2 dribbles, and went up right over him. The whole gym heard the rim shake. I hung there for a second. Below me was a sea of LeBron masks, all on their feet now, screaming my name. Go LeBrona, you're the GOAT! The same name that used to make me feel small was now making me feel unstoppable. Everyone was pointing at me, but for the first time, I wanted them to.
Wow! That was a good story. That was such a good story. Bro, she was nerfing herself just by crunching, not being as tall. I mean, for a girl, if a girl is very tall, it might make her feel uncomfortable, you know? I mean, 6'5" that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. Like, I'm 6'5" and I'm just not complaining. It's just... The main character turned from having an insecurity to finally accepting it. And you guys should do that too. If you're insecure about your height or your face or your body fat, learn to embrace it. Or change it if you can. Wow, beautiful. I'll give this story a 9. I'll give it an 8.3. Well, that was fun. If you want to watch more videos, just click on screen right now.